my scrappy friends, I have a fun layout for you today. I am taking part in the Secret Not Secret Kit Club. We've been doing a telephone hop game on YouTube and I think for blogs. So I'll make sure that I have some information in the info box so that you can follow the hop every day for the next week or so. There are going to be layouts that are going to be inspired by this one because I am number one. So I am laying down some leaves and I'm going to be using my sprays to make a mask. So this is step one. I really had fun with this layout and I was super excited that I got to start off the round. I think it's fun doing both aspects, following the inspiration, but also being the one that creates the inspiration. So I'm using a few different colors. These are shimmers, but you could use any kind of spray that you want. It's not going to be perfect because leaves, spray liquid can definitely get underneath it, but that's the fun part. I know I did like a corally color. I think it's pop art pink if I'm not mistaken. And then I did, here's a picture of what it looks like, a bronze bombshell. And so then this is what I'm doing now. So I'm not using the masked version. I'm actually taking all these leaves that have all the fun stuff and I'm going to use this as like, I don't want to say a stencil, but it's kind of like a stencil. So it's taking the negative space, and sorry about my head, you can't really see what I'm doing there. And so it's kind of flinging all around and everything. But I'm just going to press these down, and I know it's not going to be perfect, and you can't completely see, and I am being careful because if the spots where this was loaded on, like so it pooled, I didn't really want it to move around, but I did want the colors to stand out as far as not like get all murky, and sometimes that happens when you're using multiple colors. So I'm using there's a few different colors. There's like a bronzy color, there's that pinky coral color, and then there's a gold color. Oh, there's my head. So I did a whole bunch down at the bottom and then I had them like kind of floating up. So it almost would be like it was starting from like a leaf pile and kind of like floating up into the air or something. So here is my pile of leaves and I'm going to clean them kind of all up. So this is one way that you could use a stencil or something that you used as a mask and then still get more use out of it. So I cleaned up. You definitely want to clean up after something like that where you've used lots of stuff. I believe I took another picture of that just as you can see. Sometimes that kind of stuff just inspires me. So, don't be afraid to have fun with even just your supplies that you're using. So now I'm going to do some more stuff. I'm taking some more of that spray. I'm pretty sure it's pop art pink, if I'm not mistaken. I really should have had this written down. I probably do somewhere too, because I write this stuff down. I just never take it out when I'm doing my voiceover. So yeah, so I wanted to mute this down. I didn't want it to be really vibrant, but I still wanted a bit of that color. And this is white paint. So it's just like plain white acrylic paint, and I'm gonna take my watercolor paintbrush, and this is the kind that you can put the water in the barrel. So I don't think there's really any water in there. I just wanted to use the tip of it. So sometimes I just do that, and sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of water in there because it'll help it flow a little bit better than just a dry paintbrush too. So it's one of my little tips. So I'm going to go through and do some of these lines. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see me doing them. But so I wanted to fill this empty space. I, at this point, still have no idea what I'm going to use these lines for. So I don't know if it's going to be just that I wanted it kind of lined, that I could use it for journaling. So there's a whole bunch of different things that it could do with this. But I'm don't have a plan. And if you follow me and have followed me, this is how I create the best, is when I have no plan. When I just come in and I don't think and I just plop something. Every once in a while I will have a plan. I'm not going to lie. But this is not one of those times, except for that I knew I just wanted to use those leaves. And so I felt like I needed some more color. So I'm going to bring in some green, and this is Dazzlers, but you could use any kind of texture paste. You could use a different color acrylic paint. I mean, so I do have to be careful with this because it is texture paste, so it is going to have more texture to it. But I don't mind that because it will contrast against that acrylic paint that is pretty thin because I added spray to it, right? So that's the one thing that I do like mixing all these textures together because, well, one, even when you're looking at a pile of leaves, not all the leaves lay flat, and so I wanted to kind of mimic these textures that you get in real life, but in a little bit of a different way. So I find that it's just fun. So yeah, so I'm just painting some lines, and I'm not doing this part perfect. I am trying to, as my head's in the way, get it a little bit thin. I don't want it super thick, but I do want there to be that contrast, like I was saying, with it being a little bit thicker than the actual paint. And I also was trying to get two of the green lines to kind of face each other. So I'm going on either side of the pink line. And this was just to do something different. And it really, I purposely did it that way, but I wasn't doing it for any particular reason except for I thought it would look kind of nice to have some of the colors like together and then apart and stuff like that. So, it's just one of those, like, why did I do it that way? I don't know, because I felt like doing it that way, and I thought it might kind of look nice to have the green kind of matching together. So I'm almost done with this, and this has to dry. Oh yeah, I did put a little bit up at the very top too, because I wasn't sure if I was going to do, or top or bottom, I'm not sure at this point. So I do have to let this dry completely so that because that texture paste takes a while. Shimmer's texture paste takes a while, but most texture pastes do. So this is one of those things that you do one day, you let it sit overnight, and you come back in the morning and it's all done. So now I'm thinking, what else can I do to make this different? I know what photo I'm going to use, so I'm trying to figure out, like, where do I want to place my photo? I'm thinking that I kind of want the lined spot to be up at the top. Now what I'm thinking, I really want to back either my photo or my paper, and what better to do it than with fabric? What? Right? I mean, why not? I really like this idea of playing with fabric on pattern papers, or with pattern papers and on a page. I don't do it very often, and it's been a while, so I pulled out some fabric that I got last year around Christmas time. And I'm trying to match. I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I want to do this? This is why you see this photo. It's just sitting there with the paper. I'm really trying to figure out, like, what color do I want? Do I want it right on that black and white? Do I think I need to? So, I sewed this. I think I'm at that point where I sewed this, and so now I'm cutting it. So I sewed all around it, and then I'm going to cut an edge. So this is actually a little bit bigger than 12 by 12. Not by a whole lot, because I didn't want too much of that, but I did. And this is one of those things that, to me, it doesn't matter that it hangs off. And I am going to cut that rest of that part off. I just haven't done it yet. So now you see my photo, and this I actually also lined with another piece of fabric, and I took some of those leaves that I used before, and I put them in, like, on top and underneath my photo, so as layers. So this is going to be part of my layers. I really love how this looks. I wish in the back you'll see photos close up of it, but I wish I had put a close up in there, and I could have, but it looks really cool. So now I'm going to layer some papers because I can't just have fabric in leaves. Some people could do it, and this is a great place that if you don't like a lot of patterns, a lot of things, you could definitely just leave it like this and stop. But I really want to have a lot more colors, a lot more patterns, and so I'm trying to figure out, because I have a ton of fall stuff now. This fall I went to visit my friend Megan, and we bought some scrapbooking stuff for fall, and then a little bit before Christmas, like the holiday season, so in like November, at the end of October, the beginning of November maybe, I got some Maggie Holmes stuff, the Heritage Collection, so I'm going to be using that as well, and I'm just pulling from a ton of stuff. So like I said, I had a ton of fun with this layout. I'm trying to figure out what colors I want to use. It's all so pretty. And I'm using a lot of different stripes, and I really like the bold, like the big stripes with those really narrow stripes. Some people would be afraid to do that, but I think this is one of those times where if you have another pattern or something else, kind of mix it up, it really works well, and it kind of helps. It just helps with all those different patterns to have a little variation, and it is a good way to add that variation with patterns but not be too crazy too. So and I only use a little bit of it because when I do layers, I like to use smaller, narrower bits or whatever, and stuff like that. So I do like to keep it nice and tight. So I'm going to add this there because I want something to be able to put some journaling or to add some clusters to. I still want some more stuff. At this point, I'm thinking about also, do I want to bring some layers down to the bottom as well? Because I do like to do that, especially if I have something like in the middle kind of floating a little bit, which I have it closer to the end. So as you can see, the leaves are kind of hanging off. So that kind of makes it seem more like a shelf than just a floating shelf. But it definitely is one of those preferences. Some people don't like something just kind of floating, which is why I like to ground it with paper and stuff. But if I have something in the middle or closer to the middle, I do like to add something to the top or to the bottom just to kind of like help connect the two without connecting the two. So it kind of make it, to me, it just seems like, oh, you know, if you're going to have one shelf, you might have another shelf staggered somewhere else. So it just happens to be another shelf down at the bottom, is I guess how I think about it. So I don't know. Maybe it makes absolutely no sense. And maybe it's just me being weird. And I just like to add stuff to the bottom or the top. But it's a nice little place to have another cluster. So I'm looking at all these die cuts. They're all so cute. How do you pick? You really can't. But I really want to tuck stuff in. I want it mixed in with these leaves because the leaves get a whole nother texture. And I am fully aware that these are not acid free. They're not anything scrapbooky. Like if you're worried at all about scrapbooking deteriorating your pages, your photos, I wouldn't use any media, really. I don't think so. Because it all is gonna deteriorate. And leaves especially. But I don't care. So this is one thing, if you're new to my channel, I don't care if I add organic stuff. My one thing that I do try not to do is add something that has had food in it. That's my one thing that I do try not to do because I really don't want food crumbs on stuff if I can help it. So I got some of those stamp things and they're awesome. So I'm going to add that to my page to kind of add another little area I'm just going to put some of these flowers. You can't really see them until you're looking at the layout, but they're more see-through, and so they kind of work really well to help build a layer, but not make it feel like so big and heavy and a lot. So at this point, I really am just putting on these kind of final touches, adding to my layers to just kind of make them stand out a little bit more. But, you know, feel like I've had enough. Like, this is one of those things I like to buy products. So I do want to make it worth my while to add enough, because really, in all reality, if I save it, I'm probably not going to use it at some point. I'm going to get another collection and get something else that I fancy, and then I'm going to use that. So I do really try to, when I'm in love with a collection or love with some product, that I use a lot, quite a bit of it. So I don't mind adding. So now I'm working on my title, and I'm going to do a nice big title with multiple fonts. This is one of those fun things that if you can come up with a really fun title for a layout, it just is really fun to do lots of different fonts, and especially in a layout like this that has lots of different colors, you really can make it stand out and bold. So the title is going to be, how do you like those apples? If you live in the Northeast, or I don't want to say under a rock, but if you've lived, I don't know, certain places, they have that saying. In New York, it is a big saying. How do you like them apples? I actually think that's what I put. How do you like them apples? I think that's the saying. But how do you like these apples so it's a big apple and cider. I took a photo, so that's what that photo is, and I hadn't scrapped it on a layout. I used it in a mini album that I made last year, but I really love the photo. It turned out really awesome, so I wanted to make sure that I scrapbooked it for the fall time, because I love me a fall layout. It's one of those, I just love the colors of fall, and so I love playing with all them. So I'm just trying to figure out like what alphas I have that I can use to spell apples. And that is going to fit in that space too. So I like how it kind of starts above the photo and kind of wraps around. And I did that like on purpose. I could have put it in between, you know, on the bottom, but I kind of like using those lines like as a guide too for the, and then I'm going to add some sequins and some stuff like that. I still had some pink paisley, Auburn Lane sequins. They're really pretty pink and like coppery colors. So I'm going to use some of those and put them down, and then I'm going to add more. And I'm going to add a tag that I had off on my desk. So one of the things you can't see here is the rest of my desk. And I have a good sized desk that's like a double size. And so I put a lot of stuff that sometimes I just make stuff and put it off to the side. And half the time I don't use it. And so one of the things that I had made was that tag. You can barely see it. It has a whole bunch of sequins on it from Spiegel's Mom Scraps, and they are fall themed, and so it's just at the end, so I stuck that in the layer, and I really like how that turned out too. So definitely be sure to check out over online, because tomorrow Megan is going to, Crafty Maggie is going to be doing her version of my layout, and then the rest of my group is going to be doing that as well. So here are all the photos of how it turned out. It turned out so lovely. You can definitely check out my Instagram and see the full picture too up close, and I will see you guys later. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.